This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
As we start our accurate Pembroke Pines report, hockey players are different. And here's the reason. And I spoke to an NBA.
Hockey people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I spoke to an NBA agent about this. And basically, and I think he explained it very well. In the NBA, players are so concerned about their own personal brand that oftentimes celebrations become about self. And no sooner do they win something than they're selling you a product or selling you on them or talking about me. What we have seen collectively from a week from the Panthers is us and we. And when Paul Maurice turned to face his players yesterday, he basically was saying, hey, all those folks out there might adore you, but it's us collectively as a group. And when you think back to every time the way the NBA does their championship celebration, and they invite individual players up to talk to Chuck and Ernie and whoever is up there at the time, there's so much more about self. Hockey is by far the most selfless sport because hockey showed us, and we saw this in the Stanley Cup Finals, you can have the individual greatness of a Connor McDavid, but if you don't have a great team around you, you can only do so much. There is probably not more of a team sport. I know football, the defense has to be lockstep. We know in baseball, it's single pitcher against single batter. In the NBA, one player can make all the difference. Hello, Michael Jordan. We've seen that before. Hockey, the Panthers won the Stanley Cup because their third line and their fourth line contributed. The depth that they had to roll through four lines and wear teams down, including my Rangers, really made the difference in the end. That's why we saw, even yesterday, they never broke from that. They went as a team. Today we wake up, Sam Reinhart is back as part of a team.
Yeah, and to add to what that gentleman told you about the difference with hockey players or basketball players or football players or even baseball players. And I know that sport is on its way down a little bit, but still the popularity overall, these kind of sports, these players they live a guarded life. Whereas hockey players, they almost live like we live. And then they kind of disrobe you by being just like you all of a sudden. And then when you're in front of them, they're acting normal and they're not guarded from you. And then you become guarded from them because you're afraid that you might, interfere with this basketball or football player or whatever and their age. But hockey players kind of like, let me tell you, Shaq had that moment. He shows up on the truck with the machine gun water pistol and spraying people, and he's right there in that crowd. Those are the moments where you kind of start to connect with fans. And to me, that's what hockey players or hockey people, because it happens with front office and whoever you deal with in hockey, there's more often than not, they're just good people, dude. They're announcers or whatever. Especially when they come from Canada and shit, it's just, they're just different people. And I think when they start acting like you and Kachuk and all these guys are acting just like you, it kind of lowers your guard. And all of a sudden you saw them, they were all walking around people and they didn't have anything to worry about. It was the coolest thing.
I mean, look, when Big O, Orlando Alzugaray, lands his next 5-year package from Accurate Pembroke Pines, he's going to light up a stogie, pour himself a cold one, sitting at the elbow room right next to Matthew Tkachuk. That's the difference. They celebrate like we celebrate. When you have a moment, you say, I want to go and get a cold one, so do these guys. In the NBA and other places, they go to the private room at Club Live and they have their private party, and you're not walking in there and you're not rubbing elbows with players. That's the difference. The first thing the Panthers did when they won their championship is head out into the community and embracing everyone. The first thing an NBA team does is rent a private club, make sure they have a bodyguard at the door, and enjoy their moment. And if you want to share in it, fine. Go to their Instagram. That's the difference.
Yeah. And it's not NBA. It's NFL. It's Major League Baseball. It's all the other.
You know what? And Big O, I'm going to go take a step further. And then today, if you're listening today on Monday, we see Sam Reinhart's new contract. And if you notice the numbers, Big O, they're less than NBA mid-level money. So honestly, it's like it is a slightly different world that Sam Reinhart, who sets his Panthers record with his power play goals and just everything he did this season and all of that, and you're saying, God bless you, and now you're going to wind up getting Nikola Jovic money. It's just
Right.
a different world. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right. I don't know if it's by choice or it's because they have no choice. But I gotta say, I like the direction the Heat are going in so far. They got to get rid of Butler for me to really complete it. But at least I'm not seeing, I saw Chris Paul signs, and I see Paul George goes over to Philadelphia now. There are players I don't want here. I don't want them to go crazy to trade for somebody just because they're desperately trying to, stay. I don't know if it's relevant or try to fool themselves that they're going to get closer to a title. I'm the dude. You've given me 25 years of gold. It's all good if we're silver for a couple of years here and take a step back or two. I'm kind of pissed because I almost feel like the Heat puts their own pressure on themselves because they've spoiled their goddamn fan base so much that it's almost like, oh my God, if we take a step back, they're going to kill us and they're going to criticize us. And you know what, man? Sometimes you did it in 08 and 09 and it didn't bother me. You got the best coach in the business. He's going to make, chicken salad out of whatever you give him anyway. So, I just hope they do the right thing here and not the desperate thing that they keep doing.
Also, and not the older thing and not keep cycling old. And I was concerned that if the Heat made the move for Chris Paul, I would be here on the elder care of Pembroke Pines Miami Heat report starting on Monday because I know you love a sponsorship opportunity. But the thing is, two things. You can't get older. You just can't. I don't mind Kevin Love. He was here. He's part of the core. I'm okay with that. Two, you have to spend your money in the right place. I wrote this yesterday in my Ask Ira at sunsentinel.com. People are bitching about Mickey Harrison spending or not. And I pointed out the Heat had the 7th highest payroll in the league last season. The Heat were one of 7 teams to pay at least $15 million in luxury tax. Because of that, the Heat did not collect the $11 million payment they would have gotten if they were under the tax. So the Heat forfeited $26 million. But here's the deal, and I wrote this. It's not that you're spending or not spending. You have to spend the right dollars. So whether it's Orlando Alzugaray saying Jimmy Butler at 36 years old getting $50 million is misspent, or people having had issues with the Duncan Robinson extension, with the Tyler Hero extension, you have to pay the right money at the right price. And that's why I love that Bam Adebayo took his extension and didn't wait for Supermax and said, hey, $50 million on the top end is enough, because there is a permutation. If Bam made Supermax and waited 2 years to re-up, the final year of his extension would have been, Big O, $78 million. And as much as I love Big O, I love Bam Adebayo as a two-way player, if Bam Adebayo is taking the court and earning $1 million a game, that's when even I might have a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, yeah, definitely. Some guy was telling me, you got to trade Jimmy and Bam. I'm like, no, dude, I'll call him the super role player, but I appreciate him for what he is. You got to have him on your team. He's
a star. He's not a superstar, right?
It's not your problem. That's my point with Bam. More than anything else, he's not your problem. The problem is you give away first-round picks like it's going out of style. The problem is you got a star that doesn't help you in the regular season anymore. You can't do that anymore. And speaking of the star that doesn't help you in the regular season, and now that Paul George has gone to Philadelphia, so that takes that out of the mix. So what happens here with the situation with Jimmy, and then on the B side of that, or the follow-up to that, is if you're the Heat, you just got a guy that coasted on you for 2 years in the regular season. And he tells you now he wants to come back and have the greatest year of his life so he could get that max contract. So basically, he's coming back to work hard for 1 year to then coast the rest of the way, because once you commit, he's got you by the balls again and he gets to coast again. So to me, there's a risk of that again with Jimmy. And that's where, one, it's risky to let him bring him back and he's going to go balls out to try to stay in the lineup, his body may not respond. And if it crashes, then you're never going to be able to unload him. Or if it works out magically and he stays in one piece throughout the whole year, and then you give him that deal, he then goes back to coasting once again because you're locked in. So I'm just wondering, I don't know, you get to talk to them behind the scenes. How do they feel about this? Because I just don't trust this situation at all.
I think the Petri dish is going to be especially prevalent the first 3 months of the season for this reason, Big O. The Jimmy Butler threat is I'll walk and leave you with nothing, which to you is not a threat because you're getting back $50 million on the cap. So I know Orlando Alzugaray is fine. But there is a concern because it's hard to replace. The first 3 months of a season, I not only have to watch Jimmy Butler from a basketball standpoint, I need to get a team psychotherapist sitting next to me and saying, is this sustainable? In other words, if Jimmy is great in November, December, and January, ahead of the February trading deadline, I need to know, is this the start of a new Jimmy? Can I trust it? You're going to have to talk to your whole panel there, examining body language and social media and everything. If not, the trading deadline becomes a time where you know there are teams that will rent a great player for one playoff run. The Heat have tried to do that at times also. And I think you'd have to consider a trade. So I think when I'm doing our accurate Pembroke Pines report at the start of the season, we're going to be analyzing not only did Jimmy play well, but is it sustainable? And is this in earnest, or is this him simply trying to get the best possible deal? You know this, Big O, in any sport, football, baseball, even hockey. A player in a contract year is a different human being. He knows what's at stake. He's playing, like we talked at the top of the show, for himself. So what you have to say, is this real? Is this in earnest? Or is this just a moment? I don't think that he can wait till next July to decide whether to extend him or new contract at that time or to move him. I think they have to decide by the February trading deadline. We know this team gets seduced by success. 2 years ago, they reached the deadline. They said to themselves, we probably are going to lose Max Strus, but we're good enough to make a run. And they were right. They got to the NBA Finals. Last year, they waited to February, and they said to themselves, we're good enough to make a run. And they were wrong. And they kept Caleb Martin. Now they're getting nothing for him in return when he most likely leaves. They're going to have to make that assessment of Jimmy. And you're right, it is not easy. But if the Heat, let me ask you this, Big O. Jimmy's playing great ball. He's averaging 27 points. And you go, my God, Ira, I thought Jimmy was 26 instead of 36. Would you trust it enough, or would you say to me on February 6th, so let's get picks for him. Let's get something for him. Even if we crap can the rest of the season, are you willing to do it? That I can tell people at AskIra@SunSentinel.com, folks, I think the Heat could have contended, but Orlando Alzugaray of the Big O Show told him to get rid of Jimmy, so it's all on him. Can you live with that?
Yeah, I can live with it.
Okay.
I think it's time to turn the page. And I got to tell you, the only caveat I would add to all of this is you're taking a major risk by bringing him back next year because his body has proven it cannot hold up. And we have not seen him play for 3 straight months in over 2 years. And so that's a problem that I have. That's a concern I have with him. And if he gets injured in November and December, and all of a sudden now he loses his trade value, and then you are headed for a guy that at the end of the year he'll then opt into his player option if he's dealing with
right. If he's hurt and bad, you know it's turning down $50 million. I get that also. Although you know what, I got to tell you, Big O, today's a very good example. This league has shown that even when something goes wrong, guys get paid anyway. And I'll give you an example. Playoff Paul, Playoff P, supposedly crapped out in the playoffs for the Clippers and still got his bag anyway. Guys get their bag anyway in this league. So who knows? Jimmy Butler could have a crap season. It only takes one team to create a market, as you've seen in all of sport.
But his problem is that he chokes. Jimmy's problem is that he physically
doesn't show up.
Cannot hold up. And that's the wear and tear on his body. That's my only. I'm not concerned about choking with Jimmy. That's not in his DNA. That's not who he is. You know, I'm not worried about that. I know he's can come in clutch, but that's Paul George's problem. Paul George isn't necessarily a sack of injuries. This guy has got to wear it, and now all of a sudden he's going to try to play 3 months straight, 4 months straight. That's going to be a challenge for him, Ira, man. He does. This guy doesn't play a day after hanging out in the sun at a tennis match. I mean, the guy doesn't even play the third game of the season. I don't know. I just find it very risky for the Heat to try to ride the Jimmy Butler thing. I just think you have milked it for more than what it was worth already as it is. Man, get off the gravy train now. I don't know. But now the whole Philly thing, what are the options? Golden State? Is that what we're looking at?
I mean, look, it'll have to be a trade. It'll be someone clearing their books. There is an option right now, folks. I'm not putting this out to be aggregated, but if the Clippers turn the Paul George move to the Sixers into a sign and trade, they create a trade exception from Paul George that would be big enough for them to take in Jimmy Butler straight away, nothing. The Heat can get draft picks back from the Clippers. I've said throw in Norman Powell also, so you have a scorer in the interim who you at least have. Then his contract goes away. He's only $20 million. Jimmy goes out at $50. You get $30 million in space. You all of a sudden can do a mid-level player. So there are possibilities right now at this moment. I'm just not sure, and I don't think the Heat are ready to just give up on Jimmy. They still have the hope because, as you pointed out, Orlando, if they didn't, they probably would have done something at last February's trading deadline. I think the Heat still are holding out the hope. They might be wrong, but we'll see. If not, we will do a Jimmy Butler segment only next season. You will get a hormone therapy replacement sponsor. You'll make more money. Jimmy, you'll be healthier.
I hope so. They look around. They see what the Sixers did. They see what the Knicks doing. They see where
Everyone
Boston
got better. Everyone got better. I just posted at sunsentinel.com. I know you always ask me what I'm working on. The Knicks not only added Mikal Bridges and re-signed OG Anunoby, the Orlando Magic added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, didn't send anything out. The Indiana Pacers re-signed Pascal Siakam. And not only did the Sixers go ahead and add Paul George, they added Andre Drummond, arguably one of the best backup centers in the NBA, and they added Eric Gordon, another shooter. So they really took another step. Remember, the Heat played the Sixers in a play-in game last season. They're not meeting in the play-in next season because Philly ain't going to be in the play-in next season. The Heat, yeah, they might.
That's insane. All right. What are we expecting from the Heat then? Are they going to, outside of the Jimmy possibility, what are we expecting? Because they did at least the Kevin Love deal I do like, by the way, because he has proven to be a very good player the way they use him, and $4 million a year is a joke. And he has proven that the role that he's in, they use, Spo knows how to use him. So I'm good with that. What else is there for Miami?
I think it's going to be bring back either Hayward Highsmith or Caleb Martin. If they don't bring back either, that's problematic. And then they really are going to be up to 13 players. They only carry 14 and probably wait around for the best end of free agency pickup at the minimum. And they've had some bargains there. And they've got, remember, guys like Gary Payton at the end. You might not have loved it, in the afterthought, but they got Dion Waiters at the minimum at the end of free agency 1 year. So there's going to be some patience. We're going to be talking through July and August in our accurate Pembroke Pines report. There'll be an interesting name because guys always fall through the cracks. So if you're asking me, Ira, how are the Heat going to contend with mostly the same roster? It's going to have to be growth from within. It's going to have to be guys showing up for work regularly. And the one thing, Big O, you have to recognize also, they have yet to fully explore the Terry Rozier possibilities. He played a month, then he got hurt. Remember, he was not available for the play-in or the playoffs. I still don't know what a hero Terry Rozier backcourt looks like because I've barely seen it. I know internal growth is not sexy. I know guys showing up for work is not sexy. But that's basically what the Heat future is. They're a good team. Big O, let's not forget one thing. The Miami Heat.
With that, I don't know why people would have. Right. That's just spoiled Heat fans.
They finished 10 games over 500. They finished 10 games over 500. They were 46-36. And yet, when you reflect back, people are, man, the Heat had a crappy season. No, like Orlando Alzugaray said, you are very, very spoiled people out there.
Yes. And I don't understand why it's like a disease to take a step back when it's a smarter thing to do. For the last few years, you keep trying to think that you're in the game for this star or you have enough ammo to trade for that guy or whatever. No, you're not in the conversation. You're not, the whole Donovan Mitchell thing. That Heat fans started building themselves up for that. Why? Why are you building yourselves up for that? You've got no shot at that guy if he gets out in the open market. Unless somebody is willing to pull a James Harden, that's the only way you're going to acquire a star here, because you don't have the ammunition. So you're going to have a guy that's going to become a son of a bitch and say, no, I am only going to Miami and Miami only and whatever. What Lillard wasn't willing to do, that's really the only way you're going to get a star.
Or trade Jimmy Butler for a young player who could become a star like a Jonathan Kuminga, and then you go from there. But basically, to sort of wrap it up here, I'd almost give, now people might have to look this up, a Sisyphus comparison of this. As the Heat keep trying to push that boulder up the hill, the more older players you add, the heavier the boulder becomes. The more bad salary you add, the heavier the boulder becomes. You remove bad salary, you remove the older players. Instead of pushing a boulder, you're just pushing a rock. That's where the Heat are right now.
Oh, and by the way, stop giving away first-round picks like it's like you're Oprah. Please.
Especially when the last 2 years have provided Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and I think you and I both at least have hope for Kel'el Ware that he could become another contributor also. 3 straight first-round picks.
I just have more hope now lately in the last several years here because they've been able to unearth talent that's drafted and undrafted. So I don't know what's happened, but they've done a marvelous job now for several years of finding talent all over the place. So if you're that good doing that, let's not get stupid in the trading department. Let's not get crazy in the old man department. Let's get a little bit more. And I don't have a problem for the next year or two where you kind of reset and develop these guys and create some space so you can make some moves, man. Come on, dude. I mean, I just think the Jimmy move would be a blessing, actually.
Well, we will see. But for now, I think the power move for the Heat is simply to buy a round for everyone at the elbow room. But we'll see.
All right. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Anything else you're working on?
God, I gave you 5 stories I'm working on already. So
I just want to make sure before I let you go.
Push my product, and I'll push Acura Pembroke Pines. Appreciate it, Big O. Thank you.
You got it. Ira Heatbeat on Twitter. Ira will catch up next Monday, my friend.
Catch you next week from Vegas Summer League.
Yes, sir. There you go. That place is hot, bro. That Vegas Summer League is hot. Damn. Ask Sean. That right in between the two arenas, there's like this pit of heat that develops there that is just nasty, nasty, nasty. By the way, speaking of Acura Pembroke Pines, they've got their 16th anniversary sale going on right now. And the 2024 Integra is $319. The 2024 RDX is $419 a month. You can get 3.9% financing for up to 60 months. Sean and I were there on Friday. The lot is overloaded with cars, folks. So you've got a whole ton of new cars and then also a great selection of certified pre-owned vehicles. And as I tell you all the time, if you own or lease an Acura, Mike Chan and Jordan Ferber do a great job there at their service department. And you're going to love dealing with those guys. So if you go see Mike or Jordan, tell them that Big O sent you. They are absolutely phenomenal people at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. Finest dealership in the business, baby. It is Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.